Well, hello, my little space muffins. Today I have for you a mystery. We'll call him Mystery Man. Well, we have a mystery house here. I'm going to see if you can determine a few things about this person. We have a mutable sign rising. This is Virgo. Virgos like to have things in order. You might know a few Virgos in your life. The next important thing is the midheaven, and that shows you where you're going. It's in Gemini. Are we going in a lot of different directions? Too many irons in the fire? Are we focused, or are we just all over the place? Now, our next big indicator of our cosmic soup is La Luna, the moon, and the moon is happy when it's in Cancer. It belongs in Cancer. However, the moon really lives down here. If you had a perfect chart, you would have Aries here, first house, Taurus here, the second house, Gemini here, not Gemini, Mercury here in the third house. So you have a few things out of kilter. Moon might be up here, but it really belongs down here. And we're going to see that as this chart progresses when we have the sun is in Sagittarius. I love Sagittarius. It's 13 degrees. But Sagittarius belongs up here. This is a house ruled by Sagittarius, and it's hanging out down here. As well, uh, Mercury is in its own house, which is Gemini house, but it's in the wrong sign. It's in its opposing sign. It really belongs here. Sagittarius does. Mercury belongs here, and Sagittarius belongs here. Uh, Mercury in Sagittarius is out of its element, and this is very true for Jupiter. Um, Jupiter is very happy in the 12th house. It belongs here. This is its residence, if you think of houses like that, except it's in Gemini. Gemini likes to be down here in the third house. So what you see is a lot of things out of order. Everything is in opposite places of where it should be. Mars really is at home in the first house of Aries, and but it's over here in its opposite house of Libra, and the seventh house is the home of Venus, but you've got Mars here. Sometimes Mars is not happy in its opposing sign. It can be anywhere, but when it's in its opposite sign, it gets unhappy. It's not feeling very much at home, and you've got to think of that. Leo is assigned for the fifth house, the lion, but it's hanging out here in its opposing house, the 11th house. So you're having a few things off kilter. Let's see if our residents can straighten some of these things out. Let's look here at the rising sign, Virgo. You note that, let's see if our tarot cards and numbers can help us out at all. We have 29, which adds up to 11. So let's see what the tarot card 11 is. It is justice. Justice is number 11. And justice means that you're going to be involved in legal things somehow. It's going to be part of your life somehow. Justice will always be done somehow. It's a karma card, but it's ruled by man's laws, but it still is the long arm of the law, no matter who and where you are. 11 can also be viewed as 2. See, this is the second card of the Empress. The High Priestess. She's a very mysterious lady. what's going on below this mystical lady's cover, because here's Ascendant. I'm going to be involved in uh, right, wrong, cops and robbers, judges, law, the long arm of the law, man's laws, and then we have something under the surface. You have a mysterious person anytime you have the high priestess, which is plain mysterious. That's her job. She's ruled by the moon. And speaking of the moon, let's go and see where the moon is. It would be a 10 card. You see, the moon is at 10 degrees of Cancer. Here is the card. Number 10 is the Wheel of Fortune. So sometimes when you have a lot of tens, you're going to be lucky. At least you're going to be able to get away with things. And you'll be able to do it yourself. This is somebody who likes to do things by themselves, because 10 is really a 1. And 1 is the magician, and he has everything he needs to get things done. He's got all the elements of the tarot on. He's got heaven and earth. He can tap into that. He'll want to do it alone. 1 likes to do things alone, or ends up alone one way or another. And 10, you get a few breaks here. And you have the Wheel of Fortune. I'm always happy when I see a 10, but I know whatever it is I have to do by myself. Now remember, we looked at the sun down here in the 3rd house. Please note that the 3rd house is a house of intellect and travel and thinking and learning. This is a person that may just talk too much and think too much. They might be in our own little world. I see more people that remunerate in their own head in the past, and that the 3rd house can be great. If you don't talk and get it out, it builds up. And it's at 13 of Sagittarius. So let's take a look at what 13 means with numerology and the tarot. Well, 13 is just plain old 13. The number 13 is a bad number no matter what culture you go to, be it Chinese, European, all the Oriental countries just don't like the number 13. They associate it with bad luck. And there's all kinds of stories about the number 13. And in the tarot, you have it is death. How to be born and die and be born again. The death card is the Phoenix, like Scorpio. Um, it denotes things that die and are reborn again. Anytime I've been to a hurricane district coming from the East Coast, it kind of get used to it. Sometimes you see a lot of damage and things get blown and washed away, and then things get rebuilt. And it always rebuilds anew and fresh. So it is also new life, but death is death. I prefer a symbol for rebirth as opposed to death. The death process is a little rough, especially when this is combined with the Justice card on the Ascendant. So have you decided if you'd like to get to know this fellow better? If you're saying no, your judgment is very good. When you look at the overall chart, you see a lot of problems. This fellow had a lot of chances to turn out good. Grand trines, everybody wants a grand trine. If you know what a triangle is, even pyramids are a big triangle. It's good luck. It's like you follow these lines, and a good grand trine is hard to find. So this person had some artistic talent. Here's Venus, and it is trine 120 degrees to the Ascendant, and trying to Uranus, a planet of brilliance and bright ideas. And so here you have this triangle. There are several trines in this chart. He had every chance of being with the right guidance, but he wasn't. Unfortunately, he was a mass murderer. And the reason for that is number 13. And believe me, anybody can have 13 in their chart. And if you do, you want to find out where your strong points are and take care of it. This man, Richard Speck, you might have heard of him. He had, if he had been trained in art, because of Neptune here and Venus. Neptune is either illusion, delusion, and confusion, or high spiritual artistic expression. It's also a religious planet, and his father was a very religious man, but he died young, so that influence went away for Richard. But these two things together, you can be a pilot with those two things together. Neptune and Uranus, great for flying. And then, of course, Venus. I love the arts. I love beauty. I can make beauty. But I'm afraid he fell prey to his inner world. We all can be myopic and be wrapped up in our own little story. I have a guru that says, step outside of your story. And he didn't. It was all about me. And he got pissed one day. He was in and out of jail with petty minor things since the age of 13. With one thing after another. But they kept letting him out. And they didn't give him help. Just give him a paintbrush or put him on a stage. He would have been able to express this suppressed energy. Because Sagittarius is out of his sign. Right here is in its opposite sign. And anytime you get an opposite sign outside of where it should be, Sagittarius should be up here, not down here. And that can be in anybody's chart. And I want to tell you, I studied his chart way back in the day. And I remember taking a look at it. And then several times later in my life, I ran across people that were very mutable. This is a mutable sign. This is a mutable sign. This is a mutable sign. This is a mutable house. And what does that mean? Mutable means many. And it's good. You're always going to be a jack of all trades, but wasn't a jack of any trade. He was a handyman, and he got pissed one day because he didn't get a job. He was a drifter. He didn't have to be. He could have been trained to do artistic things. He actually had a very vivid imagination, but he got drunk, and he went off to a nurse's dormitory, and he killed 8 nurses. And the sad thing was, these women could have overpowered him. He just had a knife. But you've got to think of the nature of a nursing student. They don't want to hurt anybody. They don't even know how. Why did they become nurses? They're very sweet and tender. And that was the tragedy. Only one survived. She rolled under a bunk bed, and he escaped his notice, but he just killed the rest of them in a dreadful bloodbath. So, and he died in jail. But if you run across anybody, as I did, several people, they were mutable and a mutable sign. Mutable and a mutable sign. This is going to be a problem. You're going to not tell the truth. You don't know what the truth is. Too dual. Mutable means dual. Two. Dos. Uno, dos. Uno, dos. Uno, dos. So what you want to do when you have a lot of mutable is really, really, really stick to one thing. If you can start something and finish it, you're going to nix this little curse of too many things going on. Too many things going on in your head. Self-absorption and self-centeredness is a mental illness. And he couldn't get his mind off his little self. And his mentality, while it might have been good, was his worst enemy. And I hope this is a lesson for you. When you look at charts, somebody is a mutable sign. Oh, that's very nice. They're charming people. But if they're running around with a lot of mutable, Sun mutable, Sagittarius mutable, third house mutable, and I've known several people, and they weren't good people, but they were mutable all over the place. The only ones who really made it were the ones that got an occupation and stuck with it and followed a religious belief of sorts. A couple of them that I got to meet actually did focus in on the arts. They were still kind of like unstable mentally, but they could focus and didn't run around going to nurses' dorms and killing people. And so there's a terrible tragedy. Please learn from this. If the tarot cards can be your guide, if you like to center in on the tarot cards, you see here, he was involved with justice. He was on the wrong end, and he was repressed in his personality. The Empress always she can't spit it out. She's got to get stuff up on the surface and tell it like it is. And chances are, with the Wheel of Fortune, you have a certain amount of luck. And he has some grand trines. And I've seen people, they have the grand trine, and that's not all. A grand trine can kind of slip you up because you kind of get an entitled feeling, and you're able to get away with a lot of things. So it starts off when you're a little kid and you go in a dime store and you're able to lift some candy, and you're like, yahoo, I can get away with anything. No, it'll get you in the long run. You're going to end up in the pokey, and just don't hurt anybody along the way. And then, of course, we have the sun at 13 degrees. Oh my goodness, it's an unhappy house, and because it's a Sagittarius in its opposing house, the third house, and it is, of course, the death number 13. And you can work with 13s. I've seen people take the number 13 and use it to their advantage, but they have to be aware. Go to a psychologist and find out what's bugging you. And don't be self-absorbed, because self-centeredness is a mental problem and it can get out of control. So I bring this to you as a modus for learning, and please use this wisely as you go about the cosmos, both the tarot, numerology, and astrology. These are our tools. We're in an age where things are given to us. The information is wonderful, and it's time to take advantage of these outlets. The internet's loaded with these things. You can read about these signs. You can read about Gemini. You can read about Virgo. You can read about Sagittarius and learn it well, and just understand what a mutable sign is. It means many. It's kind of slippery. It's over here. It's mutable. It's not solid, and you want to seek something solid in your life if you have a lot of mutables. Well, I'm going to say adieu for today. I have an exciting chart next, and it's somebody I have great hope for, Joe Kennedy. It is Robert Kennedy's grandson, and I hope that he can bring forth all the promise of his heritage. Stay tuned, folks, because we're going to have a rock and rollin' century ahead of us, and I think he's going to be part of it.